Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm hitting live, so go ahead.
Yay!
I'm live.
Okay, all right. All right, so I'm Sheila. This is Conscious Conversation Central, and we are live this evening with BZ Rieger and Lisa Flameno Rush. And we are going to talk about intention/ritual. The frequency from which it was created matters. And today is the solstice, June 20th, 2020. It's so hard for me to even think about it being almost June being over.
I know.
I know,
But the
right?
magic's just starting.
Well, I realize that is so. You are right about that.
The bumpy road continues for another 6 months, but the magic's just starting.
Nice.
I really feel that that's a true statement, truer than I would have ever imagined in my life before.
And the bumpy road you think we've had since January to here ain't nothing to the bumps that are coming for the next. Wow. Just thought I'd give a little heads up.
Well, actually, from some of the astrology,
It's been smooth so far.
Oh, how lovely.
well,
Smooth as silk.
and the fact that Mars is going to be going retrograde in September. I mean, it's just, you're right there. So we are having, this is some very intense moments of now, and yet, I do also feel that underlying magic. So it's
and that's getting bigger and bigger. Good magic getting bigger, and the bumps are, like I said, it's been smooth sailing up till now, and it'll get bumpier. But expect a lot of not just out there bumps. Lots of inside bumps too.
well, I highly know that to be true.
Right. Yeah, we're right on time. I'm full of it over here. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Let me just confirm that she is. Well, I gotta say, I'm really glad that we're having this conversation tonight. This is a conversation that I have really, I'm coming into with a very open mind for myself, but I've always wondered about it because, I've had this conversation with many, and in a lot of different ways about a lot of different things. The majority of the conversation that I've had took place in regards to what we're talking on, intention versus intention/ritual. The frequency from which it was created matters. And the conversations that I've participated in mostly took place when I was not quite as, my consciousness was not quite as expanded as it is now. And it was predominantly in regards to religion and church and, the intention that folks hold while there. And my question always has been, most specifically since what I see, sense, and feel in regards to, well, honestly, religion as a whole, doesn't matter which kind you're talking about. It all feels very domination and control oriented. It feels, most, so I know for me, I feel how and what that was created to do.
Yes.
Right. Now, I didn't have as big a internal picture of that as I do now. But even then, the question was, because, the conversations I've had about it are that, well, most people, their heart is in the right place. And so, yeah, but see, that's been always my question. It's like, okay, yeah, your heart's in the right place, but if what it is, that is honestly, in a matter of speaking, you're paying attention to, that is lending your energy, giving your energy to something whose original intention, whose intention outweighs, right? And I mean, I really honestly feel that we create our own reality, but I also feel that these reality bubbles are very permeable, and we pull others, or we step into other realities in a consensual fashion, knowing or not knowing. I mean, I guess that's kind of the question I had about all of it. And now, of course, too, we're having this conversation, because of the things that are going on right now, and all the folks that are involving themselves with a lot of this, riots and things like that has to do with Black Lives Matter. I've seen a lot of really spiritual folks that would call themselves light workers involved in these protests because, well, yes, Black lives do matter. And I want to lend my support to that, right? So I want to thank both of you because this could be a sticky wicket to dip our toes into.
Or not.
Well, you know me, I'm all about sticking my toes into sticky wickets all the time. So it's okay for me, but So jump in any moment, ladies. Clue me. Yes, BZ, you're hanging me out to dry here. It sort of feels.
No, you were stuck there. You were stuck to the wicket. You were all ready to get them out a few more times.
Hello, Fawn. I'm glad you could join
Well,
us.
one of the things that, like, you had asked me before we went live about maybe reorganizing the title, and I had mentioned, I think you wanted to do it like present tense.
Yeah, I said from which it is created, and you chose was, and I understand now why.
Yeah, and so part of that is because, well, they're different conversations, but and the other one would be cool, although we've been having little bits of that. But part of it is because when it's focused on this way, the the frequency from which it was created is also a very powerful decoder ring. Just it amps up your discernment, filters and meter, all that kind of stuff, because then you can look at things that are, as I said, in the somewhat a little bit bumpy road we've had since January of 2020, and and now the Mount Vesuvius of bumpies that we're going to have coming right now, and it will actually speed up now. Things will speed up.
I'm sorry.
Oh my! I'm already like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's actually been going slow, so it's going to get a lot faster and hold up, bumpy. So it's going to be really helpful to have this tool that you can use to help you discern. You brought up Black Lives Matter. There's a whole bunch of things like that to discern. Excuse me. Is there, is this what I think it is? Does this feel right? I see, friends, other light workers, or this or that or the other thing happening, or how can I tune into it? And really reading the waters now is going to be incredibly valuable thing for you to do, because Well, because of the intention and the ritual and the frequency from which so much that's going to be coming at you was created, has mimics on it. It has bait and switch. It has lost leaders. To use a lot of linear terms, it has all of those, and it to hook you in certain ways, either emotionally or because you're overwhelmed or because there's a trigger point, or lots of fear points that are oftentimes masquerading as something else, because that's by design. And so then it entices you to step in a way that's, much more 2 feet at once, and you just splash right in without even thinking. And then you're in the deep end, and you got to keep swimming, because you realize, that there's a whole riot, a bunch of people coming at you, and you got to, figure out what you're doing. So that's not only in a riot situation, but that's in all of the situations that are happening right now. Is another way to say it is that now it's really time to tune in and, in your true north, and what comes to you, how are you focused, and what are you thinking about? I have to check one thing.
Okay. Okie dokie. Well, Lisa, I know that you grew up, heavily in the, as a witness.
Yes.
So I wondered too, I'd love, while BZ's gone, if you would
Sure.
check, if you would bring forward, because that's really my only experience myself personally, it has been, church related. And being that I feel the way I do about the being that those refer to as God, being something other than what they actually think, other than what, like I said, Sophia Love's book, The Imposter, really was just a whole crap ton of a validation for me, because of my own personal feelings about it. So how does, I'm asking you both, how does intention from, how would you, when you say BZ, okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place because I don't know how to do this conversation.
Lisa's whiplash, wait a minute.
Well, I really want Lisa to chime in. I was trying to get her to chime in while you were gone. That's what it was. And I really would like for her to hear what you have to say about it, Lisa. So I'll just be quiet and put it like that.
Okay. Well, as far as you were asking specifically in regards to religion, is that what you were?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like to know your take on that, because I know that,
Okay, well, for me, I see it this way, that my frequency matters, period. And what creates my frequency are my thoughts. And so I analyze what I'm thinking when I'm doing things, right? So for one thing, let's use religion as a great example of this. I personally know who I am, right? That creator being. So I had a problem with Jehovah's Witnesses because this Jehovah God was vengeful, vindictive, hateful, anything but unconditionally loving, okay? But he was telling us he was unconditionally loving. So for me, I could not worship a being that I was more mature than, and so I had to look at worship then as a whole. What exactly is worship for me? And I realized that it just isn't something I care to participate in on any level of me. for any reason. And there's lots of things I think that humanity has chosen to worship.
Mhm.
And so for me, also the example that everyone's setting of this bended knee routine kind of also screams of that I'm not worthy. It's a form of worship, and I frankly don't want to participate in that. So as far as, you know, I've had conversations about the bended knee thing in particular. And for me, what you are thinking and feeling that leads you to that position is more important than the position itself. Taking a knee really is nothing than taking a knee until you have thoughts about it. And now you're giving it meaning and you are energizing it. And so for me, I just choose, oh, excuse me. I hit my headset with my hand, which tugged the
You just
phone.
turned the ball right upside down there, Lisa. You
Yeah, sorry everyone. Well, this is difficult for me, apparently. I just want to analyze what my reasoning or my intention or my thinking behind doing whatever. And so I guess that's what I have right now.
Well, and I get that. I get that. That's why that, but see, that speaks to why you would do that, and not the reasoning behind like, okay, like we're saying, the idea that was created to take that knee.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with your intention.
Right.
And if the frequency with the reasoning for taking that knee is not one of limitlessness and expansion and all, I mean, I guess everything serves expansion in the end.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
I get that. I do.
It could be like one of those test drive, hills with the jagged rocks and the whole chassis going like this, but yeah, it's expansion. One of the things that I would say, I was thinking when Lisa was saying, well, for her, when she, in particular looked at religion and she was more mature than Jehovah, and yeah, that's a fair statement. So she does it through her feelings, right? Her emotions, her feelings. And what the video that came in when you were saying that kind of highlighted as a tool. So yes, that's, I think it's fair to say that's accurate for most people. They would describe it slightly differently, but that's in essence what they're talking about. One of the things that I would kind of add to that piece is that you're feeling into something. So above and beyond your own feelings. So I'm pretty certain Lisa does this because that's how she comes up with her navigating skill, right? She wouldn't have come to that awareness about Mr. Jehovah there, right? So, and that answers the part that you're now kind of highlighting a little bit more, Sheila, is, well, all right. So, and the way you said it, Lisa was talking about her intention, how, she does something or looking something or navigates, right? But how do you ferret out? How do you recognize? How do you not get snowed by? Or if you're, deep under a snow drift, because you have been snowed and there's millions around you being snowed at the same time, how do you pop your head out of the snowdrift and go, hey, wait a minute? And that's the feeling into, that's the reading the water. So you're reading it with your whole sensory array. Yes, and you're not leaving out, you're not discounting your linear aspects of you. You're incorporating. It's just not, your linear is not leading the way. Because then it's easy to mob sway and, virtual signaling sway and all that kind of stuff. if you're reading the waters, you're using your whole multidimensional sensory array, and you can actually, well, let's play in actual water for a minute. So sometimes, you know, if you're at the beach and there might be some little currents and you feel there, you're not really in any kind of strong current, but you can feel a little bit moving by your leg. Maybe there's a channel that's coming by or something. So you can feel that on one side of your body there's one current, right, which doesn't seem to be anything, and then you can start to feel a little bit of a current, or you can feel another way you might notice it is if you're not actually feeling the water rushing in a different way, but there's some on one part of your leg lower down, it's cooler water, and the other up your leg a little bit more underwater, it's warmer water. Well, there's a reason for that, because first of all, there could be layers and currents in the water top to bottom, but also the movement of the water is bringing stuff in. So that's just a way to paint a picture of how, of part of what I'm talking about, feeling into a reading the waters, right? Because you're reading them. I mean, it's like this huge book. It's voluminous, right? Of all the information, all of the data on all the different channels, all the different arrays, way beyond your five senses. So that's going to be helpful. The more and more you can practice that, and the more and more you're aware of that and stand in your power, because as soon as you stand in your knowing, right, that clicks up the volume on all of your sensory array to help you read the waters and decode. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, it makes perfect sense to me, but you know, then again, like I said, I've been kind of shocked to see how many, you know, folks who really do feel like they're standing in their knowing.
Well, so something about the bended knee, right? And a lot of it's I actually don't pay a whole lot of attention on purpose, because aside from reading the waters and doing what I need to do for what things I'm supposed to be doing, it's best not to dive in too much to them, because that doesn't, then I don't stay in the neutral point, the 0 point field of that. But so one of the things is when commonly goes along with the bended knee is that, you know, and is an apology, and, you know, people say, you know, they're white privilege and something. Well, so if you just felt that for a moment, what you're emitting is that the being that you're doing that to is, particularly if it's a black person or an Asian or something, where, you know, you somehow they're underprivileged, or they're because you're white privilege, you're saying, well, I'm better than you are, so I'm bending my knee to you to apologize, but I'm better than you are, as you say that, because that's, you know, kind of the whole construct is. And it's interesting because that's where the intention behind that may be unbeknownst and unrealized and uncognized to the being who's doing it, but that's where the intention is starting to bleed through from which it was created, and that's why it matters. So if you just read the waters of how you're flowing, right, you'd go, wait a minute, there's something, you know, I'm apologizing because my superiority, my white privilege, you know, however it is, if you kind of decode all those things, you go, well, hang on. So let me give you another example, because I think a lot of people can, well, maybe not actually, I was gonna say a lot of people, but I guess maybe there's a lot of people who can't relate about masks. So there's because they're trying to, it's just not working, no matter how much intention and how much ritual, and no matter what frequency they got, and they bring in neighborhoods, and this neighborhood, they have whole consortiums of neighborhoods and frequency to kind of amp it up, and it's really frustrating because these people are starting to wake up, and it's driving them nuts. Okay, so
Yes, and
So,
it just keeps getting more and more ludicrous when it gets to the masks
yes,
because
right. So, but again, there's a way. So some people say, oh no, Newsom, there's a couple of them, there's a couple of states all of a sudden it's mandatory. Okay, so, but people read a headline that says that it's mandatory. And so reading the waters, have you, up until 5 minutes ago, do you believe every headline? If take whoever's, reading this and getting freaked out. So if I ask them, forget the mask for a second, when you're navigating and you're tuning in and you're reading the waters of what's going on, if you see a headline, do you believe it whole cloth right there? And most of them go, no, of course not. Okay, well, you just did. Huh. So that's, again, because there's a fear there, right? Because there's a frustration. So it's love or fear. You can have lots of names, but it's love or fear.
Right.
So
No,
the fear could be a pissed offness. The fear could be, what the heck, which is not love. And so it's blocking the kind of stuff because think about it. I mean, what I just said is a really good key there. No, I don't do that. Okay, well, why did you just do it that way? What's different about this particular thing?
Well, what also keeps coming to me is the fact that those are all very small concepts. They're very limiting. Worship, fear of getting sick, this other piece where you are the victim and we're the victimizer and vice versa. That's all playing very, very small. That's not knowing who you are, which is a kick-ass creator being.
Yep.
And so anything done in the vibration of lack of love, the full-on knowing who you are and who you be and operating from that frequency is going to be a match. Okay, so if they're trying to gin up fear, right, and you don your mask, you're saying, yes, there's something to be afraid of here. And when I feel into that game, that doesn't feel empowering to me because I'm really approaching everything I do, everything I see and read. I feel into whether that's empowering for me or it isn't. And if it isn't, I just don't partake in it because I know the truth of who I am.
Right.
And so for me, it's just super important to remember what my frequency is telling the universe because I'm right about that.
Yeah, and so a whole cadre of people who said, but you don't understand, I have to work. And yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I'm the only one where I work that doesn't wear a mask. The other day, I swear it was like I was doing a Jesse James set, and I had because they all wear the cowboy mask type mask right here, and I thought, wow, where's bank robbery and the horses galloping up, and I don't, and no one says anything. It was never discussed. It was never whatever. I guess I'm a known entity. I mean, I did print out the deprivation and the color of law, which is on the IUB, and I printed it out and laminated, and I just, it goes right. There's the state, our buddy Inslee has put all that. So I thought, well, hey, my color's a little different color, but I put it right up there because bar should be right up there next to Inslee. But because I don't, but yet everybody, they're not nervous of me. They're not, in fact, I'm the one who's in charge of making sure that people don't get sick around the whole establishment. Go figure that one out, I mean, but in very high level important things that what I'm doing. So one of the ways that I would describe, because it's never necessarily been talked about or anything like I said, is because I hold a different frequency about it. So it's almost like they see me and they talk right to me. I'm talking from the owners all the way down, right? So talk right to me right there. but it doesn't occur to them because I hold a different frequency about it. So I actually get read in as much as they would read the waters of something as completely safe. In fact, this frequency, even though they may not break it down this way, of not a healer, but whole. So if this current runs through, food establishment, this or that, the other thing, it's whole. So there is no absence of anything, and there is nothing that could bring that out of balance.
For one thing, I find that quite fascinating. And what just came in for me about what you just shared is, I don't know, is that the level of cognitive dissonance? Because I'm seeing, everybody else, everybody wearing masks, all scared. You're not. I mean, no, nobody's kind of going, well, why am I scared? What, I don't know. This is
well, there might be, but here's the thing. You said there may be in that, but you don't understand I have a job. Hey, me too. Excuse me, I just walked by 8 people with, how's it going? I walked into an area, Friday, what's I say? So Friday, and there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there was another crew doing something of 5, all mass. And I walked right in. This is an indoor place, right? And more of a higher level indoor place. We'll say, I'm just gonna leave it there. I can't take much about it. And I walked in. Hey, how's it going? And I just said it really quietly, smiled mostly, but that was my energy. And everybody's all masked up, and I swear it looked like bank robbers everywhere, and 6 shooters, and I went about my thing, and I. Careful sometimes, especially if there was a counter there. I'm just gonna. I would telegraph, I gotta go over there, so I'm just gonna sneak on by you, right? And people would stop and chat, and these owners and stuff like it.
I just
but
kind
no
of
fear. No, I certainly wasn't in any fear.
Well, and that's really the key here, because that frequency takes precedence. It just does. It's cohesive. It's the truth. And so you can walk fearlessly through anything in the right frequency.
Right. So a couple things that you just highlighted, I want to flesh out a little, Lisa. I'm not fearful. Yes. And so someone said, well, I'm not afraid of necessarily of the COVID or anything. I just, I have to wear the mask. Yes, but there is fear there. Because why do you wear the mask?
Right.
Because it's my job, because they make me, because I got to. Well, you can stand up. We can go into details of that. It's actually written on all of your states. Wherever the thing is, you can find the languaging that shows you actually don't have to. But you've got to stand in your knowing.
Yes.
And do it.
Yep.
So the quote unquote reason for the fear may shift it in a slightly different frequency neighborhood, but it's a frequency neighborhood of fear nonetheless. And you're giving it power to it. And here's the thing, if you're conflicted, this may sound a little odd, but if you're conflicted because you're grumpy or annoyed or peeved because you don't want to wear a mask, you think it's frankly baloney, but you're fearful because of your job and whatever, you have to. So now you've put yourself in a kind of
pickle.
A parallel neighborhood frequencies, which are at odds with each other, right? Because you're not standing for you, you're not standing in your own north, and you do it to yourself twice.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Like, well, what you're saying makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is that, I don't know, that I have a hard time seeing that the level of cognitive dissonance that must be taking place in that situation has to be off the chain.
Well, I would agree with you to some extent. Sorry, I have to run away for 1 minute because I think what
Okay.
we're talking about is annoying me and I have to.
No worries. We can handle it. We can handle it. I guess I just I wanted to share, Lisa, you were saying earlier in regards to, I'll take this moment actually before I say that and give a shout out to those who have joined us. Fawn
Welcome.
Denmark is in the room. E Squirrel has joined us. Angie Atkins. Yay, I'm so glad you were able
Hello,
to.
friends. Yay.
Jean Marie Ish has joined us. She says
Hi.
present, conscious, and enjoy. Greetings. I love that.
Well, thank you kindly.
Fawn said, down here in our little town, most do not wear masks unless they are made to by their employer. But what I wanted to say that kept coming in for me, Lisa, when you were sharing in regards to, you know, taking the knee, how worship and what for me, I kept, and I have from the very beginning felt the taking the knee thing was a mockery of what actually supposedly happened. And B,
Yeah.
I always see kneeling as subjugation.
Yes.
Subjugation
I'm
and
not worthy.
yeah, you're right. I'm not worthy. And because, you know, well, actually what I keep seeing in my mind's eye is, you know, kings and queens and how their subjects always were expected to kneel.
Well, and when a battle was won, you know, at the sword, then you were treated better if you kneeled to the reigning king. Maybe they would slice all of your head off before they drew and quartered you. Instead, you didn't kneel, they'd draw and quarter you and you were still alive and whatever. But yeah, so it's a thing. Again, it's one of those talking about how you navigate and how do you test that, feel all of your bodies. And a lot of people have forgotten how to do that, just like a lot of people have forgotten how to think for themselves. And a lot of people have forgotten to tune into what makes them happy, have forgotten to a whole lot of stuff. And, you know, you're the expert for you, and that's kind of okay. The only reason I phrase it as kind of instead of absolutely okay is because magic is flooding in, and all the rest of you would never consider doing that. And so the rest of you is flooding into you. I'm not saying that the rest of you is having an objection to what you are choosing. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is because those frequencies are coming in, and you, before you came down here, you know, on purpose for this particular time, these moments right here, you were thrilled about it, and you knew that you had a huge job and you were ready. I mean, bring it on, let's do it, right? And so if you have forgotten, or a bit of you has changed mind, or you got, you know, snowed under, use that metaphor we're using before, right? The shearing force of that is going to be off the charts, hence the bumpy and the speeding up and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting, you know, you mentioned about the cognitive dissonance, and I wanted to say two things so that, you know, you said it must be off the charts. I wanted to say two things. That one, that when someone's in that and the seal gets broken, you know, the seal on the cognitive dissonance seems to be, when it gets broken, it's like stand back, because the heavy metal, like a bulkhead on a ship, is just flown off, and you don't get smacked by it as it goes by. But now it's set even deeper about that awakening, and you're less dissuaded. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's not always, or in a large part, cognitive dissonance per se. it's the one way to say it is the kind of a go along to get along, or because you think you have to, or you don't know how to navigate it, and what really it is that you are not trusting you, and you're not standing in your true north. So an example about the mask thing, I seem to be going a lot of places where everyone doesn't wear masks, but finally started up nose work last week, and I had this whole conversation with the person who was running it, and I said, I respect your wishes. I don't understand I don't know for certain where you're coming from, but obviously there's some fear. And if it's genuine fear for your health, or fear because the state could take your, do something about your business if you don't, I appreciate all that. And I'm right there with you, supporting you in that your choice, because you're the expert for you. But I won't be coming until you're saying that it's not mandatory. Oh well, no, I don't require it. Just they asked us to suggest it. I said, okay, well, great. In which case, I'll come. So I went, and I was the only one there who wasn't wearing a mask. I have no problem with that. But again, in the same kind of thing, there's all these people, and they're 6 feet apart, and there's tape on the floor where all the chairs are sitting. We're talking about it, and I'm happy there to listen. I'm doing what we're doing, and people are kind of fidgety, and they're playing with their masks. And afterwards, or at the beginning, she said, well, when these chairs are done in class, there's a sign over there that says, please put them over there. They need to be sanitized. I said, well, I'd be happy to help you at the end of class if you'd like me to. And the maskless person was the only person who volunteered to help. And then towards the beginning, she moved over to one where there's a huge big garage door, because it's one of those business parks where we go, and the rope had gotten stuck underneath the thing, and she said, oh, it's stuck. And so she came back over and was going back with the description that she was giving, and I said, if you'd like, I'm happy to help you unstick it later. She said, well, leave it for now. And then she said, well, yeah, could you? I don't know whether she was thinking she wanted to get on with somebody who's doing it. So I said, sure. So I walked right over, and, for everybody else's sake, I made sure that I was at least 5.5 feet apart, because we had to fix the door. But again, no, and I thought, this is so funny, But what was interesting is the other beings were kind of watching this going, I don't know whether they were just trying to figure out what was going on, or if they were noticing themselves not doing things they would normally do because their mask was on them, which is usually what happens, because now you've put yourself in a groove, you've put yourself in big hierarchy, you're in whole sorts of things. And here was this one person who's not married, and she's constantly, well, I can have to. And then a little while later, there was a thing she's the woman who was running it said that she was describing how, I guess in case people were really afraid, which was nice. She was describing how every time you walk through this door, I wipe it down, or please don't open it. I'll do it for you, because she was gloved up. And so I just happened to mention, I wasn't trying to be a nitpick, but I said, well, just so you know, when you're doing the sanitizing, so-and-so walk through and open it with her hand, because people don't think that for some reason their mask goes on and they never think about it. So if you're really trying to be safe, you're all failing miserably at it, right?
Well, see, that's at the core for me of all of this.
Right. So hang on, and that gets even, so which is why, because hey, I do a lot of playing, that we're going to stay safe here, and people are glad of it, because I say that's the rules, and so I say no to the top all the way down all the time. No, you can't do that. Well, what do you mean? Because I'm supposed to keep you safe, and playing that game, that doesn't work. We can't do that. Anyway, so go back to this. So she said, okay, thanks, right? And then there was something else, and we had moved into another room. We were staying indoors, so we moved into another room. We were doing some stuff, and she was stressing it. And again, I just mentioned about there's a different door and hands and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I'm just going to point it out one more time on here, because I don't know if you really care. I figure because since we're playing the game of doing all this kind of stuff, that surface, that surface, that surface, that surface, that surface, and that surface. And I haven't been watching. I just sit out of the corner of my eye because that's what I do, right, for playing the game. And she said, "Oh," and she was a little annoyed because.
Well, see, that actually is my point in all of this. There doesn't seem to be a lot of follow through thinking.
No, there isn't.
You have described several times what you, as the one apparently, sane person, where you work, you are pointing out to the quite frankly oxygen deprived individuals who obviously need every gulp of air they can get because they're not thinking all the way through, and you are actually physically pointing it out. But there's in every instance all across the board, it seems to me that any kind of critical logical thinking has gone completely out of the window with all of it. Some of the things that you've described, gloving up with 5 pairs of gloves, washing things before they come out of the car, doing it, doing all these different steps to mitigate this, right? No one who's afraid has thought all of that through.
That's right. But I've been put in the charge of playing the game.
But they don't think it's a game. That's you do.
Yeah.
And it's a game. That's my point.
No, I know, but I'm saying the reason I do that is because I'm honoring their wishes. I'm afraid, they say, right? This is the big bad beer thing. It's going to get us all. Okay, fine. Right? So with all the different things I'm doing, great. Then my job is to create these different, because when we first started this, we couldn't buy anything in. So I had to get, top grade essential oils and clean. Okay, right. But so I'm doing this. If you really are afraid and there is this big bad wolf, then I will do everything so that you will be safe, including telling you no, even though you own the place, you cannot do that because that's the game we're playing. So in the nose work, they said, and she kind of was frustrated at me because she was realizing how this efficiency wasn't happening, because here's this person who isn't wearing a mask, is not worried about any of this, and is really not even, doesn't seem like she's paying attention to what's going on, and she can point out all these servers because it's on my radar, right? Because that's what I spend most of my job, doing. So I said, I thought we were playing the game that way. And what was fascinating to me, she said, yes, but I don't drink the Kool-Aid. And I turned and I looked at her and I said, oh, well, there you go. That's important. And I don't know whether that was the thing that popped into her head, or because she intended to say it, or it came out of her mouth, but it was very interesting kind of a moment there. I didn't, play with it too much, but I thought, well, that's helpful, because there's a lot of Kool-Aid and it's all different flavors, and people are being grabbed by the back of their hair and it's being, thrown down. But so I think a lot of it is they're small business owners, and so they're afraid, right, that they have to do this, they have to do that. And whereas if they actually educated themselves and looked at the actual wording, right, and did things in a way, that was cognizant of being careful, but in a way that made sense, they'd be doing much better than they are. And go, let's go back to the headline of the new mandate and this, and it's not. The wording hasn't changed at all. And, there are exemptions all over the place and the thing, but people misconstrue. Well, the spells are in full effect, and they're being cast all over the place with languaging and wording, and they're starting with the front spell ringers, which are the press and the media. And are you falling for it? You know,
Yeah.
just like the person I asked, well, how come you don't believe the headlines and the newspaper over here, but for this you do?
Well, I'm sorry. I happened to take a look over, and Fawn Denmark was saying, first of all, she said it's hard to deprogram our minds after years of programming to wake up one day and realize we have to tap into our real reality in our conscious mind. But she also said that she at one place that she knows of there in Florida where she's at, there is a store with a table outside the door and a sign that says, stop, grab a paper towel to open the door. And when you leave the store, nothing, no paper towel to grab the handle. Well, this is kind of my point too. Lisa and I happened to run to the grocery today, and there was an older gentleman, and he was wearing what I know is a respirator for a painter. I've seen painters wear these before. So he's an older gentleman. He's wearing no gloves. So hands all over the groceries that have been touched by I don't know how many people.
Yes.
You know.
But I did see him with a disinfectant of some kind spray bottle when he got out to the car for his hands.
But not the groceries, eh? So
and I wondered what was in that jar that you were spraying. Interesting.
Well, I just, like I said, that for me, it just seems like almost all of these things there didn't seem to be any logical follow through. You know, we're all scared to death, so let's wear a mask. But then, you know, I've seen, because I just pay attention when I'm out to see the behavior, and there's this false sense of security. First of all, deprivation of oxygen. Secondly. So that's not helping the logical thinking department at all.
Right, and they're not at all in the frequency of knowing. They're not at all in the frequency of standing in their truth, because it changes well, first of all, the mask thwarts that, because the mask is actually exactly what it's talking about. So with the focus of the ritual and intention and ritual. So there's an intention behind wearing a mask, and it can absolutely positively nothing to do with your health.
No,
Everything about making you sick, on all of your bodies to become sick. Mm-hmm. And subjugating you and controlling you and manipulating you. And part of it is a test to see how quickly, how easily, how effortlessly, and as often as their tests go, how set it and forget it, right? So they can just they set the intention, they set the ritual, they've got their frequency that they're creating with locked in, because they can have in their conjuring spell, right? You then will, like, jackals on a sheep, tear others apart to keep perpetuating their spell. Well, for a lot of people, you're just beautifully falling right along. I mean, like you get an A+ and you come right to the front of the class.
Well, I'll tell you something else too. I don't know if it's specifically mentioned in the Constitution, but I got a feeling that the deprivation of rights under color of law would cover the fact that I need to breathe unencumbered.
Yes.
That seems like that is part
of course it does. Everybody.
Life, yeah. And the pursuit of
well, and I think it's hilarious that they wear the mask and the t-shirt that says I can't breathe. No. And I just want to scream, take the mask off. And then you can breathe.
No, that's absolutely true. I'm sorry. I posted that myself, and I said, can you see the irony? So, well, in the, I guess for me specifically, the mask thing, it feels like a whole different thing. Of course, you mentioned this, BZ, and I don't know if you were aware, but I was made aware, I think 2 days ago, that here in North Carolina is what they call a concealed carry state, where you have the right to conceal a weapon as long as you have attended classes and you're certified to do so. If you have a permit, you may conceal your weapon.
Mhm.
And it has come up recently that if you have a concealed carry permit and you have your gun on you and you are wearing a mask, you are in violation of a state statute in regards to being masked. And the punishment for something like that is a Class H felony. And once you are charged with a felony, you may no longer ever A, own a gun, or B, vote. And so I find it very interesting and very telling that this far into the game, because apparently there's rumor, I haven't checked it out, that our Democratic governor is thinking about making masks mandatory. And so there's
well, he can. As a governor has no, they have no legal authority to make a law. It has to go through the legislature and all that kind of stuff. The boards of health, because I dealt with boards of health when I was doing the farmers market for years, so I'm well versed in how they do their shenanigans. They can do it, but it has to be under, if there's certain emergency declarations, well, all of those have lifted. The only ones that still hold are the ones that Trump has put in, because it's a federal, not a state. And the other ones that are state have all lapsed. And in the part that they need to, as far as what the feds have given them and agreed. Remember, they all said, you hear at the beginning, so-and-so state went and asked to have them be declared in a state of emergency, right? Yeah. And we're looking at the paperwork and going to do it very quickly, and we'll turn around and do that. That's the part I'm talking about.
I gotcha.
So that part between, basically the federal government, Trump, agreeing to that has lapsed. And so so for a very short window, right? The original 2 weeks, 30 days, that's all they had. And they can choose what they want to do, because that's, first of all, the way that the Constitution works. And second of all, he wants them to give them lots of rope so that they can hang themselves.
To take their masks off?
Right. And they're just, they're just playing it out, and they're hanging themselves, right and left. So he can say what he wants to do, but you also are in a state where people have a lot of guns, and they have a lot of, concealed carry permits, and they're smart. They don't need to be educated. They know exactly what's going on, and they won't stand for it.
Well, you're right, but I will say that it feels, from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a lot of it, but what I've noticed so far is that there is a lot of questioning going on in that group of folks that do own and do carry concealed. I've been privy to a conversation that's taking place on Facebook here in North Carolina, here locally, with folks I know, where this is, they're discussing it amongst each other. And someone called the sheriff's department and asked the question. And the sheriff's department apparently issued a thing that said, oh, well, that, that's something special and you wouldn't be charged and blah. And I'm like, okay, well.
Oh, I wouldn't believe that.
I
wouldn't believe that.
That's exactly what I said. And that's exactly what I said. There is no, if it's a law, if it is a law.
Yeah, if it's a standing law already on the books, and the sheriff, now, not to malign the sheriff, but he may be saying that believing that that's the case. But I wouldn't trust that if it's already on the books as a standing law, right?
Exactly.
Then I wouldn't trust that for a moment.
Exactly. But I have to tell you that the moment I felt into that, I did feel some myself. I felt some nefarious things because what would be the fastest way?
To disarm a whole passel of people, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly correct. There are states, governors that have been trying. We neighboring one to us, Virginia, trying to do away with the Second Amendment right in their state. They're not having a whole lot of luck with that. But however, what is a see? I don't know. I felt an end run trying to be made around. Okay, well, if we can't, because listen, I've seen a lot of that. If we can't get you with this lie over here, if you're a little too smart, oh, let's twist something up over here and see if we can
Right.
get you.
So,
No, maybe.
and this goes exactly to the focus of the conversation, because the guns and the masks and the this and that and the other, the beer thing and the riot thing and the Antifa thing, and we got a lot of things going on here. But there's a lot of similarity in all those things, and it's fear is a big one.
Yes.
And people who are standing in love, who are standing in their knowing, who are standing in the truth of who they are. Sometimes they may waver a little, everybody does sometimes. But so those are the little tiny metaphors, but the big picture, because each of us is asking us now to step into that holy of who we are. And as soon as you do, these things that are supposedly this or that or the other thing just disappear, because they're not in your reality. It may be somebody walking right next to you has to do that, but that's not yours. And that's part of what that's part of the magic that you're seeing. That's more and more blooming in actually a fierce and wondrous way. That's what's happening with that magic right this moment. And you can step into that magic anytime you want. You simply need to make the choice to trust in your knowing. And so it affects everything, not just these kind of things that we're talking about.
No, you're exactly right. Fawn just offered us a comment that she saw a lawsuit today against Target. The employees are going after them for the masks, that it is unconstitutional, and they're going to start soon. Well, let me just say, I do not enter a store or a retail establishment generally without making a comment to the employee that please make sure and remove that and breathe some fresh air every now and again, because you're really harming yourself. And I also say quite loudly for all to hear, quite frankly, I don't understand how they're getting away with it, because you're hurting yourself just to keep your job. All it's going to take is one or two of you guys to fall out and hit your head, and I would sue this place for everything it was worth if it was me. And
I do. I say, it's fascinating that corporate's really doing this. And they say, what do you mean? I said, well, because I just last year I say I can see 8, 15, 20 lawsuits right here. What do you mean? I said, because it's really bad for your health, and when someone gets hurt or sick, you can sue them. Now, I'm not at all a litigious kind of person, but I like to say that I'm surprised that the legal department in corporate is allowing this.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, the immediate thing that gets said is, oh, well, no, they made it so that they can't go after the employers. Who
said that?
Well, I'm saying that's the answer that folks give. It's like a pat answer that I've heard more than once. I think somebody, again, like the sheriff's department saying, oh, we're not going to go after you. If you're wearing a mask and you're carrying a gun, we're not going to go after you. Sure, you're not. Okay. I'm sorry, it's the same thing if you ask me. Oh, they gave us a pass because of this COVID thing. Well, okay. So everybody just kind of accepts that, which I don't believe for
Well,
a second.
again, if they're worried about, so it's okay for you to potentially irreparably harm your health because it's
Right.
a COVID thing.
Well, like I said, this is where I have come to for almost all of it. And that is the logical thinking process has been completely interrupted. It just today, as I said, I was in the local CVS. The two standing behind the plexiglass in their masks, little overweight, both sweating, both did not look comfortable. And when I said, oh, please make sure you're taking those things off and getting yourself some oxygen every chance you get, because you are harming yourself. The young man said to me, oh, well, this is pretty thin. I said, so what in the heck do you think you're protecting yourself or me from if it's that thin? Okay, see, I'm sorry, but there's no logical thinking process here, apparently. And that's just very
I wanted to play for a minute with the logical thinking, and it's because it's more than logical. So part of the logical linear, yes, but it's not. I agree with you, but it's bigger than that. It's actually multidimensional. So what would be a way to? Well, it's a complete picture thinking, maybe is a good way to look at it, because when you look at masks or anything else, then you can start to see the frequency with which that was created in, and you can see the intention behind it, right?
well,
Yeah.
I sure can. I think they're trying to deprive everybody of oxygen. I don't, I mean, that's part of it, it feels like, aside from some of that's a 3D reality that
Well,
even,
what is oxygen? It's the breath of life.
yes.
And if you have the breath of life, you have the breath of source within you. And you have the tuned in to the life force. And in these moments, with the light coming in to all and that life force fully imploding in, fully awakening, they're trying to mask that. They're trying to, block that off, cover that conduit that all of you can come into you. And so when you look at it that way, do you want to allow someone to be the expert for you? Do you want to allow someone to choose whether you need to wait, a couple hundred millennia for you to, have full embodiment and expansion? Because you're choosing all the time. I mean, it's choosing. However you're walking and what you're doing, you're choosing things. So when you think, okay, well, just right for right now, but there's only now. And this is right now. And we're in the moments of big choosing. And because it's free will choice, we are the expert for us. And so we are the one who is the sovereign chooser for us. And in this example, kind of the conversation that's coming up is, you've chosen to do this now.
Right.
So what is your heart telling you to do?
Well, see, now I'm glad you brought it up in that way, because let's jump back over to the Black Lives Matter part. Okay. So I feel that that was created with a not a good frequency.
No, it's Marxist, first of all.
Say what?
Marxist. She's, you can find her video with a woman, there's two women who founded it, Black Lives Matter, and they're Marxist.
They're Marxist.
Mm-hmm.
I bet a lot of folks don't even know that.
Yeah, she says right now. She says she's fully trained and versed in on all of the platform and dogma of Marxism, and yeah.
Well, I didn't even know that part.
Yeah.
You know, I really didn't, but.
So, I mean, and that was then taken and run and funded to help it go. And it's also in to help that grow in a non-organic way, probably, which would annoy the Marxist if she really figured out what was going on, you know, why it's gotten its teeth into it. Right now she's kind of, it's kind of like, you know, communists, where you have to give to the all, which sounds like a good thing, which means that, again, the puppet at the top has it all and the all has nothing, you know.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
But
yeah.
Kind of what we
when
got
you
now.
look at that, again, it's that part of you could never be on Twitter, you could never be on Facebook, you could never have to do any of these kinds of things. You have your own feed, right? Your own it's wouldn't be called Twitter, but you have your own source feed on various algorithms and frequency channels for navigating this stuff. And and you can stay on all those other things too if you want. And actually, once you turn this one on, it's actually more fun and fascinating, and none of it bothers you. You just watch it go by, and you can see how the different parts are you know, moving in the current, and this is a head up current, and this is this, and you know, because then you really can stand in that channel of its all expansion, and you know where you're going. You personally are going. You know where the trajectory of all, because that is the critical mass from the frequency side. I'm not talking about, you know, head count side, and because it outweighs that. And so that would do a couple things, right? First of all, it makes it a lot more comfortable, a lot easier, because you can see it, you can have fun in it, you can enjoy the expansion, you can have your own, you know, tumbles and tussles within yourself and integration, and great. But you don't have to get too head up about it, because you can see that it's expansion, and you just clear and polish that stuff up. Okay. The other thing that's really helpful is then now, because you've got that, you're adding more of that frequential, clear, clean, resolute, fierce weight, gravitas, to your energy frequency, which is in the critical mass channel for not only guiding, not only swaying, not only actually steering, rudder, and all, you know, from the steering wheel and the rudder, all of it together, the timeline and what actually is going on, the trajectory of consciousness, of expansion, of all in all of sources, multiverses. You are now fully adding that weight. You know, you've got your 52 bazillion quantum engine horsepower behind you, and you're all going that way. But once you lock into that.
Well, so really, I don't know. I'm feeling to make the connection in some way. I mean, I see it for myself. I do. I see it for myself. What I'm failing to see is, I don't know. I just, like I said, there are those, and it doesn't really matter for me and my reality because I'm not participating, but I do see those who have these great intentions. They feel their heart is in the right place. They are supporting something that they feel is a great injustice in the case of some of these things.
Well, there it is. A great injustice. Is that the energy you want to play with?
No,
As
not
far
for,
as, yeah, because choosing. Everybody gets to play how they want to play and see what they want to see right now. So for me, there is no injustice.
no, I
There
agree
really
with
isn't.
you.
So even though things look, and I know that just sounds crazy to say when there's so much injustice, but honestly, that's just a bunch of people playing small, right?
Yes.
That's what that is. And the only way to rise above it and stop playing that game is to just stop playing that game.
She said,
To know
hang on.
who you
I hope people are paying attention right here because you can't say it any more clearly or any more beautifully than you can't. You simply cannot.
Well, look,
Okay.
there's a whole shit ton of us, and I'm saying us because I'm throwing myself in with the light worker crew at this moment that feel like Lisa said, there's a shit ton of injustice going on, right? I don't feel that myself. I'm saying that is a very real thing in a lot of, not just in the less awake and less aware pop, right? It's also in some of those who, like I said, light workers, folks that, the elite are doing this and, all of these other sorts of things. And I see what Lisa's saying there, and I'm saying that there's still a lot of that same feeling.
So aside from bending down on a knee and being incredibly, can't even think of the right word, incredibly offensive by saying, your white privilege is done that to them because you just put them way below you on the thing. Because if you're privileged and your white is doing all these things, then you think that they are just, kind of this piece of fluff or a dirt mote or something that can just be moved around, and you've demeaned them as a being, you demean them as being powerful. So I don't get that. But anyways,
No, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't get it either. I felt it was a huge mockery of things.
it
And
is. So, but if there's injustice, if one is holding it that there's injustice, then what does your heart say? And where does your heart guide you? And are you then going and having a true, honest conversation where there isn't a million people on the street and they're not killing each other and there's not, CNN reporting, that the jubilant atmosphere of this protest and stuff? What are you actually doing one-on-one in meeting and connecting with another being to share maybe your own trying to understand about the injustice that you see? Or is there, a way that you can communicate with me better, this other person you think that's been unjustified, right? And doing things. So in other words, where is that true thing? It's like a common thing, maybe think about with all the masks at the grocery stores and stuff. There's something comes on the screen. It says, would you like to donate, X amount of dollars for this, that, and the other thing? And I always say no. And one time, a long time ago, I had a friend say, well, but you're such a giving person. Why would you say that? Because if I want to do that, I take it directly to the family or a being, or I keep my ears open and do it where I know it's not going through a corporate thing. And I know it's going exactly to someone that can use it. And it may be money. It may be money and this. It may just be a moment where I'm completely present with someone like that. And let them communicate, not necessarily tell me, but communicate to me what would be the most of value to them, most supportive, and then go from there. But you see, it's not a one and done. It's not a quick pill. It's not a, you can go with the crowd. It means you have to ask your heart. It means you have to be in a place of holding. It means you have to actually care and have that connection.
That's a very good explanation for me. Then that actually sort of falls into the category of bypassing.
Yeah.
For me. Okay. So Fawn offers that she thinks they want to know how many are still programmed. I honestly, I have felt like that too. I've felt like this is all a test. Every single bit of it is a test.
Yeah.
And so I have to agree with that. And she said we're waking up and they're afraid of that. I feel that in some ways, those that.
Now, one thing, Fawn, that goes with that, you're absolutely right. I was saying that before, this is a test, and a lot of people have been failing miserably, but there have been signals all along. So if one watched the pressers or played with some of the decodings that we did of them, and I meant Trump's original COVID pressers and then the press secretary, but all along they've been giving you signals of things, ways that you can, from a linear way but in a multidimensional way, stand in your power. So on May 4th, the deprivation of rights under color of law came out, and it was updated, and it was sent out so that you could see it. You could find it in various different ways. And how many people went and read that? How many people took notice of it? How many people actually felt tuned into what that was letting you know? So anytime then that something was going to come up and your linear programmed mind said, oh, but I have to, or they're controlling me, or you don't understand, but you just had something that came out that was your pass from the highest level in the linear land, right there.
Well, but see, now that means you got to pay attention, BZ.
Yes.
Well,
actually,
if you want to go through ascension and expansion and the fantastical, magical stuff, yes, paying attention is
how you do it.
Is how you do it.
Well, I wanted to share with you guys that Curious L said that In Pursuit of Truth put out a fantastic video today, Weatherman 3, all for Floyd. He said, Curious L says this is an eye opener. I was sent that video. Someone did share it. I have not had a chance to take a look at that. Yeah, I point to that all the time in my lives. That what you have there on the IUV BZ, and I know of folks that have pulled that PDF up and kept it on their phones for easy, quick access. I personally, I recommend everyone do that that's interested in doing that, making sure that they have that. I know Lisa's dad actually put it on a card.
He's working on it all day.
Yeah.
It
Got
turned
it
out
all
beautiful.
laminated and everything. And
yeah, because when you pull that, you say, and then you start to read it. So now it's been updated May 19th. And it had it, but if you look at it from it, it's got some serious teeth.
Well, exactly.
Including life, imprisonment, or death.
Yep.
To the perpetrator of infringement.
Right. Well, just like a lot of other things, like, being in plain sight, it's not like somebody, well, for one thing, don't look for it on the mainstream media, because they're not going to put anything that's not, that's for you on the mainstream media. So you can just forget that. But it's very similar, because it's because it has to be a choice. It has to be, that's what
Yeah.
I see, sense, and feel in all of it.
Be a choice.
You have to want to know, first of all, you have to want to know. And that is a choice. And then you have to go and look.
And meet the information, and then you need to hold it with you. So your knowing coupled with your wanting to know, so you took action, and availing yourself, connecting with that part of linear revelation that's coming to you, and you hold it with your knowing of the truth of who you are, you've got the sword Excalibur of truth that will cleave through any lies. You can brandish it about because no one will touch you. And it's that simple and that spectacular and the magical right now. But each you has got to stand in it because no one else can do it for you. People can be helpful and point this there and that, but you've got to meet it.
I'm putting the link right now in the chat room for you guys. Although you guys can't put links in there, I can because I'm the administrator of the account. So I just put that in there. So you can click on that link, go to the IUV if you so choose, and see what we're speaking on here. That was issued, and it was updated actually first by the Department of Justice. And you said on May, what, 4th?
Originally updated on May 4th and then updated again on May 19th.
Okay. And so it's the deprivation of law, deprivation of rights under the color of law. And well, I don't know about you, but breathing seems to be
Good. How are you?
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the neighbors.
I gotcha. So honestly, this really does apply to a lot of things because
It applies to everything.
well,
Yep.
I'm just saying, I have always suspected that the intention that one holds in their heart is good for them, but but lending the energy to something that's been created as a spell, as a method of domination and control, as a trick, that so would you say that mitigates the intention in the heart? See, that's my question too.
Okay, well, that's actually a whole bigger conversation. But the
Oh.
simple short answer is that if you're just, we're talking about where you have that holding and that knowing, right? If you're standing in that, then that it's Excalibur. So it can cleave through anything. And
Yeah.
yes, you can cleave it out of your reality. It does no longer touches you. But if you're not in that knowing, right, within you, and it's kind of, I think this is so, or someone so and said it was so, but I don't know that it's so, you don't have it, then it won't. And so that's one part of the answer, simplified, very simple, simplistic answer. The other is that if you're, and this is the, the free will irony, is that if there's a spell, right, conjured with intention and ritual and symbolism, which is all the things we've been talking about, or any of these pieces and everything, frankly, and it is designed for this. If you do not come from a frequency of knowing, a frequency of absolute, resolute, and fierce, having
Alignment.
done eyes open and connected to what's going on, so on all of your body's level, there is that knowing that you are cognizant in a multidimensional sense of what's going on, and you add, because you're coming from your heart to do it, you're actually giving more weight to their spell, because that's part of what it is. So they can take that emotion, they can take that pulse of someone wanting to do well, someone wanting to have, maybe it's innocence, maybe it's love, maybe it's purity, if it truly is, and they can then use that to infuse more illusion to their spell. So they love it when there's, that's why the KGB term is really pretty great. These useless idiots just get up there, have no, they never thought about even took a tiny little gray cell. Apparently I'm mixing metaphors with Clouseau and everybody else, but they never took a tiny gray cell in their head, in their pretty little head, to think about anything. And they just went out and did this thing. I mean, it'd be like they all got Ouija boards on steroids, and they're wondering why there's jinn and spells and stuff all over the place that are now backfiring on them. The woo-woo stuff, the energy frequency stuff, the magic of it all, the magic part comes from, magic is not good or bad, it's wielded by the intent and the ritual of that being that is wielding it. But it's real, and it's absolutely gorgeous, whether you think it's dark or light. Doesn't make it any less gorgeous, because it is something that reaches beyond all levels, from matter and to no thingness. And each being has the ability, like stirring some wonderful recipe, to take nothing and bringing it into something that can come to full fruition based on your intention and that frequency that you've brought it into life with. That's astonishingly beautiful and magnificent. Whether it's bad or good, whether it's evil or divine, however you want to, does not change that at all. In fact, the recipe, the formula is exactly the same. The only potential difference is that the bad guys, the evil guys, all over here, right, are really good at it, because they don't poo-poo it, because they understand how it works. And others are not willing to tune in and trust their knowing and know their knowing and educate themselves. And that isn't just go Googling it. That's, you don't have to have access to Google to do it, right?
Right.
And we're in that moment now where all of us is asking us to notice that.
No, I agree. I've said a lot of time. I've said a lot that magic is it's not, because there's that fear. Everyone talks about the dark magicians and all of that, but the truth of the matter is that we all have and are, for that matter, magic. The difference is that, in my view, from what I've noticed, is that they know it, and they have practiced and honed their focus and attention. And because I started looking into magic, and I do like that, because there's a whole lot of books you can get that talk about how to. And as I was reading, I thought, oh, wait a minute. This is all about focus and attention. All of it. Every single bit of it has to do with focus and attention.
So this is something that it's been kind of circling around, but it's come back in to really bring it forward, is that something in the way you just described that about, you know, magic and creating it. You bring the magic to life. You breathe life into the magic. You breathe life into bringing it into matter. And so look at what people are doing all over. They're wearing a mask. So they're hiding behind something. They're veiled. They're not being able to properly breathe, or they're taking part in huge rituals with t-shirts emblazoned on their heart that say, I can't breathe. And if you think for one moment that you have not just come into an initiation of a contract with dark magic of the very darkest sort, then you need to go find out exactly what you're doing, because you free will choiced it, and you're not in a good position.
No, I know that that's so. That's why I wanted to talk about a lot of this, because if and that actually goes right to the heart of the intention.
And usually people are saying, well, my heart's in the right place because they want to help. And the most helpful thing that any of us can do right now is to know who we be and then be that boldly. And don't look at another human being as disenfranchised or unable or missing something, because that's not the truth. And if you can hold the truth in your heart, see your fellow man as whole and complete and capable, that goes a whole lot further than anything that they're promoting out there to do, because none of those things, I mean, even if we're just looking at it from a linear point of view, the money that was collected for the Black Lives Matter is not going to help anybody at all other than the Democratic Party and furthering some political issues. And, you know,
Oh, I don't even think it's going that far. I think it's going right into the pocketbook. It's just
well, that's what I mean. But, you know, I actually saw some people were doing some research and they were showing where the dollars were
yeah,
going. And they were going to the Democratic political campaign
yeah.
people.
DNC is one of them, but Camilla Harris and
Yes.
a whole individuals are,
So I don't understand how that's helping. What is that?
it's not.
How are you helping? So if your heart is in the place that you want to help others, then help by being an example of a kick-ass creator being.
So what was the phrase that you said specific? I know it, but I'm playing with you a little. So
Okay.
what is it that people are saying? What did you say? People say my what?
My heart is in the right place, or
Okay,
I
so,
want to help
stop,
people.
stop, 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 stop.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so say it again, like someone is telling you this. So the way you first said it, I just roll with it. So someone is telling you,
Um,
say this phrase.
my heart's in the right place.
Okay, so when they say that,
Yes.
99 and 9/10% of the people have no idea how to come from their heart and not from their head. And when they say my heart's in the right place, nothing works below here. They're not there. It's all a brain, linear, ego mind thought.
Yeah.
It just really struck me when
That's true.
you were kind of role playing that someone says, "Oh, my heart's
Yeah.
in the right place," right?
Yes.
Lip service, is nowhere near reaching your high heart.
Well, I agree. And honestly, that kind of a statement, the first thing I thought was, the first thing that came to mind for me when anybody says that
Mm-hmm.
is that, well, there's there is a cognitive dissonance in that statement, because if you have to say that your heart is in the right place,
Right.
does it mean
Well,
that
It's a
this is also speaking to the my intention is to be helpful and loving and kind
right? No,
kind of
I'm in
thing,
agreement.
saying my heart, my intention.
Right.
Yeah.
I am in total agreement. And my thought here is, though, that there is absolutely something missing in that,
Yes.
because
Yes.
what's the need to have to, well, my intention is, well, then that means that on some level, probably back here where you're not paying attention, or in
Right.
here where you're not paying attention, on some level that being knows.
Yes. You're
Because
right.
Yes, because they're trying to
your heart's in the
convince
right
you.
place, then on
They're-
some level, you know.
They're trying to convince you. Well, my heart's in the right place. Listen to me. My heart's in the right place. I mean, that's what most of the time that I've ever heard that phrase. That's exact. They're trying to.
You're right.
They're kind of trying to convince you, but they're really trying to convince themselves that their heart's in the right place.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a part of it. That's
So hey, stand in your heart and you're home. It's as simple as that.
Well, I wanted to share, welcome Jennifer. I don't know if Jennifer Brown just joined us, but she was saying, so interesting when you look into taking responsibility for what you create without knowing it.
Yes.
Is that good or bad? Knowing there really is no good or bad on one level.
Yes.
Right. And Curious L said main media has most everyone in a spell / mind control. Unfortunately, those beings are clueless, mind control bots, or even cyborgs with implants. Reference Stop 007 puts out info regarding non-consensual cyborg, CIA, I guess. Bailey Lane said, I still struggle with that reprogramming for sure. And I guess what I'm saying is that, oh, and Joseph Brian Royster just joined and is saying hello to the Gal Pal posse.
Hello.
So the thing of it is that by not taking some, and Lisa, what you were pointing out too, when both of you actually were speaking to wanting to help, okay, and be supportive. I kept, for some reason, what keeps coming is that that's holding any of and all of those beings as less than.
Yes.
Yep.
And I am fiercely devoted to myself in these moments of now, and I'm holding myself as less than no one, more than no one, just me. I am the most important thing to me, and I want everyone to be the most important to themselves as well. So for me, when I feel into that, I want to be supportive for folks, yes, but I don't want to help anyone. I can't help anyone. I can, I'm doing real good to just try to help myself over here. So there's that.
But you see, you can feel it when you're talking, when you're toning that. So if you were at a piano and you were very good at playing the piano, and you're tickling the ivories in such a way that, and it's a nicely tuned, nice, can't even think of we had an old piano like this, and it has a beautiful resonant sound to it. When you tone what you just toned, and the hammer strikes the key, there's a reverberation in that, right? There's not a reverb, there's just vibrational reverberation in that, right? And so you can feel it in your heart. And so that's a way that you can play with this. How do you feel that going on? So what I wanted to come forward and say here is that that's where it's genuine when someone says they want to help them. So they think about it. We, you know, well, I donated, someone will say, well, like when the Fukushima and the tsunami, I donated, money to Japan and this and that. In fact, I was walking with a very good friend one day, and she said, well, I want to donate money to Fukushima, this and that. And I said, okay, but are you doing that because the media was saying, people should donate this and the other thing, or is this a genuine thing? And they were somewhere there was a discussion within their own head about it. And I said, well, there's beings all around you right here that could be helped by a genuine connection of some kind of donation, whatever that is, time or money or in kind or whatever it is. And in that moment, for that being, they'd never thought about it that way. They simply was a reflexive thing. This has happened. Send, a few bucks here, there. I've donated. Yeah, I donated. My heart's in the right place. I did right. Kind of a thing. And I just kind of off the cuff said, well, there's lots of people around, here. And I didn't have any agenda. We were walking at the time, my two white labs, and I was still in the vineyard, and I just kind of on off the heart sort of a thing, I was just kind of feeling and speaking at what was feeling out loud. And we're walking along, and then it dawns on me that the person that I'm walking with is not there. So I stopped, and the girls and I turned around and looked, and she was gobsmacked. She'd stopped right on the trail because it was an alchemical epiphany, right? Something in that moment, kind of aligned, and she thought, wow. She said, well, I may donate something, send some money to but yeah, I'm going to look into different things around here that I might want to be a part of, that I might want to connect with and contribute. And in that moment of that shift with her heart, right? Her heart was truly in the right place. In fact, was very cool. She was in her heart, and it shifted something big for her. So whatever she then did, a smile, some actual money, this and that and the other thing, would be amplified and magnified, right? And have a resounding reverberation in all that it came into contact. And now she's floating on the magic big time, right? So that's the difference. People think, oh, well, if I did this, it has to be big, or it has to be this, or I have to, kind of telegraph it or shout it out loud, or just know and be genuine about it.
Well, this kind of goes to something that Curious L spoke to in regards to everyone. The mainstream media has most everyone in a spell / mind control. So for me, as I was, I was kind of awake to some of I still feel like I'm very asleep. So it's hard for me to say I'm awake, because I know that there's lots and lots and lots that I'm still asleep too. But before I started hanging out with the two of you guys and having these conversations, which have been so instrumental in my own journey, anytime I would be involved or look at the possibility of being involved in a group thing, I didn't have this in the forefront. You know how I say in the forefront of my consciousness right here. I didn't consciously, the little me didn't know, but on some level, and this is what I'm speaking to here, on some level, in some cases, as I'm looking back now, I think that I know that I knew, because there's been several things like mass meditations, okay, things like that I've never felt comfortable with. I didn't understand why necessarily, but I just didn't feel comfortable with them. And I didn't make the connection until, well, really this conversation as to why that is. You know, like I said, apparently on some level, I must have felt into it and just known and steered myself away from that. It's at least a possibility. Because I have sat in on things like there was a live Zoom show that I used to participate in where they were doing some meditations all together. And I did participate in a few of those. They were organic in the moment. It wasn't something that I think it was planned. The entire group would come up with something to do. As I remember one specific, that the idea was to do XX, and I was like, oh no, thanks. I don't want I don't want to be any part of that. Thank you. I'll see you guys later. So there are things that even when like I said, on my, didn't have it right up here, but something said, and I must have paid attention. I don't know. Like I said, I have, it is a choice, and I guess there are those that are making those choices in whatever, for whatever reasons. I just know it was a big noticing for me, that especially when, because I happen to see it's really only a couple folks that, and I don't really know them very well here locally, that, you know, purport to be light workers that were involving themselves in the Black Lives Matter here locally. And I was just a little confused by some of that. And well, that, and then of course too, the religion thing, because I've never really understood that at all, as to why. Again, that the conversation has always been, well, I know what my intention is when I go in there, and so I don't have to, or when I participate in that, and so I know where I'm at with that, and I'm okay with that. So I guess it is just all a choice, isn't it? Is BZ frozen?
No, I'm fully present to what you're saying. It's frequency. It's a frequency thing.
Yeah.
Which is very powerful.
Yeah.
And now more than ever in this moment,
It's creationary.
yeah, it's really helpful if you get on the frequency thing.
Well, I'm a little bit flabbergasted. I guess partly because I just learned from Deneen Peckinpah that unfortunately, she says, unfortunately, your live coincides with the president's live in Tulsa, so I'm late and glad to be here.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I didn't.
He's actually doing 2 conversations. He's going to speak inside, and then he's going out. So they create a venue outside, and he's going to speak in. So we can all wrap this up and go watch him speak outside.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I want to thank everyone for
Do you
showing
hear the
up.
grand finale? I have fireworks out here.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
There were fireworks in the neighborhood last night too.
Yeah, and tonight.
I'm happy to say Keegan and I have a ticket at tonight's festivity.
Oh, awesome! That's cool.
Oh, fun.
We wanted to be part. We wanted to be part of putting our paw to be over the million people who have.
Oh, I heard them that time. Wow, those are big ones too. I wonder what in the world's going on. here locally
know.
that's that big 2 nights in a row. Well,
Yeah.
Curious L said, yes, CIA. Well, Fawn said she doesn't do mass meditations. Too many energies, not good for her energy. And Curious L said, yes, CIA, FBI, and MI6 Crown Castle agents have been working on such evil since the 70s and want everyone to be implanted, especially those in authority. Arizona University teaches handlers for their cyborgs. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, so Jennifer Brown says there are a lot of fireworks in celebration tonight. Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's make no mistake. It's again, he set it up to play with it, but it's on the solstice, and the Trinity windows of the solstice with a big portal that's being opened up. That, you know, so you have over 1 million plus people. So the frequency, here's a frequency thing, of the energy of beings who are thinking about and holding, because this rally is much more than just a political rally. This is a freedom. This is a heart-centered freedom ring, and you don't need to be there, but just of that things are moving forward on the solstice. This is a huge shout out, a huge resonant unfolding that all over the world are taking part in.
Well, I need to ask Deneen, since you were just watching that, Deneen, if you would mind sharing with us, because I saw when we were watching one of his round tables, Lisa and I happened to notice that there's a slogan that I think is being used, and I haven't seen very much lately, but transition to greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his slogan. That's one of the slogans right now, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And she said, absolutely it is. Okay, so I have to say that that feels huge to me. And I want to say too that well, so we decided to, and I know there's a lot about, you know, TV and movies and things like that, but I really do feel like there's things are shifting in such a way. We actually got the opportunity to take a look at that newer Disney movie called Artemis Fowl today, and they speak on greatness in that. There's a lot of disclosure, I feel like, in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really cool disclosure about a lot of things. The Fey realm is exposed. The inner earth information is there. The fact that you know, everything about time anomalies that are actually created on purpose. It's very, very interesting. And for like I said, it called my attention to it. I shared with Lisa that in that movie, talking about greatness was there as well. So for me, that was a signal to that.
Yeah,
So,
and think about it, that I mean there are tweets and all manner of things from people all over the countries all over the world who are excited about this big rally. Like I said, the rally itself, sure, great. That it's a POTUS rally for re-election, sure, okay, great. But those things are the small pieces of what really, it's pointing to, or a better way to say, that are in, the cosmic cookie bowl dough that's being created right this moment on the solstice, and not any solstice, but on this particular solstice, where you have the three huge points that are all coalescing in a trinity, with the different the different eclipses that have come, and being bookended with the third eclipse coming on the 4th.
right. want to point out something. This is very interesting to me too. And I want to ask Jennifer what she means. She said, remember, you gals have opened and invited all to this energetic envelope. And I'd love to know exactly what you mean by that. You're right, but I'd love to know what you mean by that. And Tiger said Trump now holds the world's wealth and he's spending dollars like he won the lottery. And no, that's true. He really is. And I saw a bunch of his tweets the other day, and he really has begun the reconstruction of the infrastructure of the United States. And that's something that has been needed for quite some time.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
well, awesome, man. I really appreciate all of you that came and participated with us this evening. And I want to thank the two of you for coming and doing this. And I really do. I have been feeling for a while. You're right. There's this huge portal, and it's actually open. It started opening I could feel it opening a few days ago. I know that, there's specific times, but energy moves in waves, and I could feel it a few days ago, and I know Lisa was too. And so I just want to say to everyone that's present here and everyone that will be watching, when we're not actually live and all together, just be good to yourself, hydrate like crazy. If you feel hungry, eat, because apparently
That's a thing.
that is a thing right now. I cannot believe I'm sitting here feeling hungry. And I'm practicing radical self-care right now, and staying in joy. Because
every moment that you do, particularly those last two things that Sheila talked about, right? You're in your heart. And so then if you have a thought of, wondering about someone or helping this or doing that, then that is a thought form. It has a cohesive structure, and it goes out into the all and it's got legs, to use a linear saying, right? It has substance for which it can then, coalesce with other beings' thought forms. And now I just had this great idea. This just occurred to me, right? And these things are moving off. So that's part of the magic as well. If you're not wanting to be in the frequency of self-care because you think, well, those other people have nothing, and you're bending a knee and all that kind of stuff, then none of it is genuine. So all of it is in a frequency of, I was going to say, materialized distortion, but it's actually misaligned frequency of what you're thinking you're putting out there, what you're wanting to accomplish and create. And
Right.
more than that, it's going into the frequency piggy bank.
Yeah, you're energizing the ritual.
Well, and honestly, for me, speaking to the honoring of self, radical self-care, and staying in joy, one of the things that I had with the two of you in our I can't remember if it was our last live conversation or the one before, where we talked about honoring yourself. If I don't honor myself, then I don't have the space to honor anyone else.
Right.
And I have to say that was a huge alchemical epiphany for me in regards to that one. I mean, I think I was practicing it from an intellectual exercise level prior to that conversation. But I can very, very clearly, with all of my bodies, see that if you don't have the capacity to honor yourself in every moment of now by doing what you desire, what brings you joy, what makes you feel the most comfortable, then you have not got it to give to anyone else. You don't have the space.
Well, you're just disingenuous.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. You guys are all awesome for coming and showing up and playing with us in this conversation and being in this frequency. For those of you that weren't live, um, I love it if you're not already subscribed to Conscious Conversation Central, please do so. If you're watching this on BZ's channel, uh, subscribe there. Come over to mine. We'll do that kind of thing where you subscribe to both places. Make sure to hit that like button so that more folks get to, goes in that algorithm. And we'll have a place for you to, a way to get in touch with all three of us is in the show more section of every video that we do. And I guess that's kind of it, right, ladies? Is there anything else you would like to add?
Be magical, because it's enveloping all of us. Just look around. The only thing I would say is be present, look around, step outside wherever you are after you've done, hearing these words. And I'm looking out the window right this minute. I'm looking forward to stepping outside, but you can see the different colors. You can see all of the effervescence that's it's burgeoning forth. It's coming out of the unseen into the seen. And it's almost like I'm watching something that looks like tiny little, when someone blows bubbles, a little kid blows bubbles, and they have their rainbows on them. Well, all of a sudden, they're just coming out of the grass out here. Now, there's nobody around who's been blowing bubbles, and Keegan's right here, so it's not him, and Rose is sleeping over there. But we can notice all this. It's actually right there happening in front of us. As soon as we connect with it, we invite it in.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. And when you're talking about the magic, what I've noticed around here for the most part too, with us in this household, is the delay for different things is like minimal. I'll give you a really cool example. Last night, Albert was he wanted to do a fish fry for us, and so he's made some beautiful hand cut French fries and had some sea bass ready to go, and he was just cooking up a storm in there. And I went and got some water, and I'm standing next to him and I'm watching him, and I'm thinking in my head, wow, dude, you're wearing those rubber gloves around that oil. That's not something I'd be doing. But I only said it in my head. Before I could get out of the kitchen, Albert said to me, I know I'm only wearing these gloves for a minute. It's as if he actually heard the word, and I think he did. So this is,
he said because of the cut on his thumb,
right.
And he didn't want,
right.
Which is so funny.
I know it is seamless at this point.
We do a lot of that around here. And I think we all are, and we're just not taking note. So right. Take note.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, you guys are very intimate, and you're all made conscious agreement to be in expansion consciously. But it's happening everywhere to everybody as well. As Lisa said, it's just
it's just a matter of noticing
that what's going on. Yeah.
And then believing and trusting what you get. That's all hand in hand together too, by the way. So you guys are awesome. And Deneen wants you to know that we are her main faves these days. That's sweet of you to say. Very sweet of you to say. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, Fawn said, that's funny. She was playing with bubbles outside today.
Oh, yeah? Well, some of them floated over here.
And Lisa, where the bubbles came from.
And Lisa E-Squirrel said, Johnny Cash referred to the burning ring of fire as love in a burning ring of fire. Lisa actually got that. I wanted to share with you as an earworm. So isn't that
earlier today? So that's so funny, because every time I was seeing the pictures of the eclipse here and there,
right,
and it was triggering that song.
Yeah.
So it's happening right now. See, it's fun to notice.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to notice. So
Thanks for sharing that.
yes, thanks for very much for sharing that. Hey,
Keegan.
Keegan.
Hello. Good
Yeah,
to
I
see
saw
you,
Rose was
friend.
up on camera earlier too.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, thanks so much, and look for us. You know, you never know. We might just go live at any moment. You just never know. Till next time. Mwah.
Much love.